I've invited Janet up for a day of a little bit of marital fun. We're going to have some fun, aren't we, Dom? What are we going to do today?
That's a weird way to describe it. We're going to get the 2 moulds for the back cockpit roof and stick them into the factory so that we can lay them up. And I'm actually going to take part in the layup.
Yeah.
So half the time apparently.
Yeah.
Don't know about that, but I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah, and those moulds are 5 metres wide and 5 metres long. And remembering back when I purchased the mould, I'll show you some vision now of us cutting it in half. I had to cut it in half because it was too wide to come down the freeway. Therefore, I've got to put it back together again. And the sad part about it is that it's not exactly the mould I want, but I intend to put some inserts in the mould to make it exactly what we want, or close enough to it so that I can then modify it for winches and helm. It is actually a power cat mould, rooftop mould. It's the fly bridge effectively. And we've got it sitting over here against the wall. So Janet will just show it off there. You can see it, that's half of it. And the other half is under 3 other moulds. So firstly, to get to that, we've got to move all of this stuff and then get this one and this one into the factory, turn them upright or upright like this, red side up, and start to work on how I'm going to modify this to make it into a nice sail cat mould. Now, I could just make a cockpit roof, but I'm going to lose the shape. That big circle there, up on the end there, I'll lose that circle if I try to make it myself. So I'm better off to use the mould that originally came with it. I'll just have to put inserts in it and redesign the actual cosmetic top of it by putting in some blanks in here and hopefully some anti-slip and stuff, and maybe even some mounts for solar panels in the works. But who knows what we're going to do. But yeah, there's a lot going on up here. We've got one more mould up here that has to be made, and that's the kitchen mould, which is down there. And the rest of it's just basically done. So once I'm done with that, I'm done with the mould. So anyone wants to purchase a mould, get in contact with me, direct message us. We would like to see it go to someone who's really keen to build themselves a nice boat, like we're doing. All right, so this mould here is actually from the master suite. It's the wardrobe mould. And it can go out first. We're going to take over the whole place out here, and it's ready to drive out.
So some people will say we're being lazy. I just think we're being practical. Rather than pull them all the way out and bring them all the way back in, we've just pushed them off, this one off to the edge, just against the fence. And then this other one, we're hoping we can push over towards the kayak mould. And then it's just half our time for doing stuff. Alright. Wow, we've had a lot of rain.
Oh, I found my old jumper, John. Lost it while I got hot. I don't like being hot. I seem to spend my whole life hot. Yeah, actually, we'll give it a go though.
Yeah, I think it's worth a try. Can you pull this?
Slide that one out.
If we can pull this forward a bit?
Yeah, see how close it is? It's right up in the end.
Yeah.
We might be able to drag this out with a little bit of... Actually, what I'll do is I'll get that jumper.
It's okay. Careful, Dan. You might be... I'm more worried about snakes than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm worried about. Oh, sorry guys, I'm making you sick.
Oh, what's this one? Oh, it's my old favourite. I've been looking for that for years.
Well, it's not going in the washing machine, that's for sure. Would you like me to help you?
Oh, not right now. I don't want to get under it like you usually do. If I squash you again, I think there'll be a backlash. Not from you. From viewers. Say I'm trying to kill you.
I know, that's what Joel was suggesting I do to you.
Shit.
Have you got a jack?
Hey, that's a big spider.
You got a jack?
You ready? Right, we've got it up. It's free swinging, but it's not It's not real stable because we can't get under it over here somewhere. So, righto, Joe, I'm going to get really excited. How you doing?
Hang on. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa! When I say whoa, stop. Swing it into the tag. Just give me a second.
So if it clears that, it'll swing this way. Let it swing this way.
Yeah, it's just it was going into the targa.
Huh?
It was going into the targa.
Yeah. You good?
Yeah.
We'll get you through that with the...
No, no.
Alright, I'm going to drop it down, I'm going to roll it over and then work out how we're going to get into the shed. Might be on pallet jacks at this stage. I might even borrow the forklift for 5 minutes. I think that might be the best way to go. We missed the best bit. What was the reason? Come on, be honest.
I had to turn it off because of Ross's bad temper.
Just lost it. Big time. And luckily didn't film it. But we're trying to pallet jack this mould in. And how the hell does that happen?
You know
Hey?
how it happens.
How does it happen?
You
Come
know
on,
how it
show me how that happens.
That's why you move cables around by going, get this shit out of the way.
I just don't understand how you can have a bird's nest like that when you should have nice, neat lines. This is not going to be good for our sailing if we treat
it's
our
not.
boat like this.
Well,
Look at it, like a monkey's fist. It started, I just went to Janet and I said, Ellen loved doing this when I gave her the gun. She goes, I would too if I didn't have a foreman leaning over me. Right. She stamped her authority on the pressure washer. That avenue of fun has just been closed off for me. But that's cool, because that means I can get other stuff done. Having a few days in the shed, really nice to get up here and just do some thinking. Spent the last day or so really reviewing it and looking at it and trying to decide how I'm going to go ahead with it. But I was originally going to make it in two separate halves, so this half and then this half. So this is the starboard side and that's the port side. I was going to do it in two separate halves, but the problem with that is that firstly I've got to work out a way of flange joining it in situ up on the boat. The other problem I had too was, would it fit out the door? Now I've just measured it. It's going to fit out the door. In fact, it's 1 centimetre narrower than the door. I may have to trim the flange off, but that's no biggie in the grand scheme of things. So I've decided I'm going to actually put it back together. And look, it's going to be a bit of a difficult one. With the deck mould and the hole mould, I was able to do it from underneath by putting a ladder of timber, like some ladders of timber bolted through. I don't want to damage this any more than necessary, because obviously somebody else will probably end up with this flybridge mould and want to turn it into a power cat. So I don't want to damage it, but I am going to put a whole lot of inserts in it to change the shape and the function of it more for a sail cat. As you can see, the centre actually isn't in the centre. When I cut it up, there is once again on here, actually it's on this side, on the bottom there is a brace that runs here. I had to go off to the centre of it when I cut it in half, and of course I was in a hurry because the truck was coming and I needed to chop it in half in a bloody hurry, and as a result it's not in the middle. So that's not going to really affect me, because what I'm going to do is actually put it back together, and then I'm going to be putting in a mould made of this sort of stuff with anti-slip and obviously other types of inserts to make this thing function better. But luckily it has steel pipes. There was one here, there's one down the bottom, there's another one in the middle, there's another one down the bottom, another one at the very end. And I'm able, and I've just been welding here, been able to put an insert into the pipe, tack weld it there. It's not welded there permanently, but certainly it will allow me to then be able to slide the mould back together. I'll ratchet strap it together, and then I'll tie it together somehow to make sure that it won't actually slip. Perhaps a bolt through the pipe on this side, on the female end. I'll put a bolt through to tie it together. Then I'll prop it up from underneath, and then I'll be able to continue working on it and make this thing all in one piece. So far so good. I've got a ratchet strap up this end. It was a bit of a challenge getting that bottom one in, because all the framework underneath is all sort of broken and rusting, but the mould itself's in good shape. But what I'll do now is basically get a ratchet strap around the other end and just guide them in and pull the whole thing together, and then I'll start to prop it up from underneath and give myself a good base to start working from. As you can see here, the alignment can't be wrong. It's just a matter of whether or not I can get the bloody things in place at the right time to pull it all together. It shouldn't be too hard.
Here we are again with another big week on Life on the Holes, guys. That project with the hard top will take quite a few weeks to put together. You'll be looking at around the next 4 or 5 weeks. I'll be showing you different components of it. Now, last week I left you cutting a massive hole in our deck. I want to allay your fears. I've given this some thought, and there's plenty of information coming up about how I'm going to address some of your concerns. Let's get into it, guys.
All right, that is now the cutout. I'm just going to show you how thick that is. I mean, look at that. That is the window mullion laminate. So what that laminate is there, that is a gel coat 300, 300, 600, 300, 1215, 1215, 300, foam core 300, 1215, 1215, 300. So that is probably the beefiest bloody boat you've ever seen. I mean, look at the thing, it's like 1.5 inches thick. It's probably 45, 50 mil thick. The laminate of the entire window mullion section, which is this brace down here. So I've got to recreate that to make that into something that's going to be substantial enough that's going to be able to support the mast. Now, I'm remembering that the mast is sitting on here. So it's already going to be sitting flat. I need to get this deck down to here, or it's actually going to be down here and sitting on top of it. So I'm going to make up a box or an insert that's actually going to sit under here, and then re-engage back in flat here, and so that this part of the window is pushing down, this is pushing down, this is pushing down onto a platform that is then engaged onto the mast post. Now, I've had a look at a number of boats just recently, and typically they're just sitting on that with a centre bulkhead underneath it with a couple of braces. This is far stronger than anything that I've seen so far, without putting in like stainless posts or anything. But at the end of the day, that insert will make a massive difference, and it actually will engage and be then tidied up on the deck. We'll be able to make it all nice and flow coated and look like it never happened. But by the same token, it's going to really make the thing strong, and that's all I'm really interested in. The cosmetics I can work with later on. All right, now with that freaky hole cut, that was scary cutting that out, but it's done. I've got to make a template. Okay, so the end of this, where it hits the deck there, has to disappear into there, because there's going to be another piece coming flat along the top in line with the top of the deck there, and it's going to be a box. And cut off at this line here, it's only a tiny little box, but what it does is it gives me a level all the way across, and on this side and on this side as well. Yeah, that's absolutely spot on.
There's quite a bit of concern last week about the rigging around this insert, and in fact cutting a hole in the deck itself created quite a lot of concerns. Now, firstly, this box, although I will be making it out of foam core, certainly will be solid glass. I just needed something that would form the box and give me a good solid base with which to be able to form the insert. And secondly, the sheaves and pulleys and water pooling at the base of the mast. The mast actually sits on a secondary plate, and then there's another male insert that's actually sat on top of that, so there won't be any pooling of water for corrosion of the mast. It's a small enough insert, and it will all be rounded and faired around the actual insert to avoid any friction on the lines. I hope that answers some of your questions, guys.
So where I've come to is I've now got a 20mm foam core box that's actually got two layers of 600 double bias on each side of it. Now, that's going to be glued together tonight, and then tomorrow I'll come in and physically glass it to the or glue it to the deck with Techniglue, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to shape it and round it and everything. I'm not that worried about the cosmetics. I'm more worried about the actual function at the moment. As you can see now, I've got an insert. Now, that's really, really important to me, because the last thing I want to do is have a big block of wood that just looks shithouse underneath my mast. And I've got my mast base and mast post here, and we can have a good look at this now. Essentially, that's what I've been aiming for all along. So that's what we've got there. Now, the job is going to be to get it all faired in, so it's going to be glassed. It'll actually be glued in place with epoxy, and then I'm going to glass it in and then fair and re-gel coat the whole thing to make that disappear. And I'll actually go for more rounded edges, because I really want to try to make this look like it never happened. And that's part of the whole boat building process, is making sure it looked like it didn't happen. But yeah, that looks pretty good, I think. I think that's, you know, it looks a bit rough now, but certainly won't when I get to the end of it all. Now, I said to John, I'll make a box in about 15 minutes to fit that hole. It's taken me about 3.5 to 4 hours to fashion this. Is now glued together, and I've left it overnight, and that's now ready to simply insert into the hole that I've cut in the deck, and that's the mast base. So I've designed this specifically for a particular type of mast base. I have got a couple of options, but I've actually erred on the side of caution and made it larger than I need to make sure I've got room for turning blocks and sheaves in this area down here, which I have. And basically this is the contour of the deck. So the advantage of that is I'll be able to run lines straight up the center of the cabin roof and back to the cockpit to ensure that I'll be able to sort of manhandle the boat on my own. I've prepared all of these foam surfaces and cove them just so I can get a little bit more epoxy into them, and I've come up with this very elaborate wedging system that luckily brings the whole thing to level. Now the first aid kit's there, so if I get injured, it's being used as a wedge for a little while, so hopefully I won't need it. I've never needed it so far, but that's probably a good chance that once I do something here I'll probably hurt myself and then I'll need it. Like so. And I can check the fit. Now I've chosen to put it in a bag because I need to squeeze it in to make sure that I really work it into the places it needs to be. Now remembering this glue is only to bond the box in place. It certainly is not going to form any of the structure because I'm going to be laminating in and around the foundations of the box to tie it back in and integrate it back into the deck structure. All I need to do is make sure this is positioned so that I can then begin the cosmetic restoration of the part. So I'm going to first apply it to the face of the deck, ensuring that I've got plenty of material there. Now the great thing about this thickened Techniglue is that it will hold its position in the vertical face. It has great vertical hold and will totally eliminate the need for me to pump any in from above. And here we go, and it's a pretty simple fit. It just slides straight in, and that's pretty much all you need to do. We're going to attempt a test drop of the deck in 3 days' time. So I've got a bit of prep to do for that. I've already trimmed pretty much all of the bulkheads. I've got a couple of little areas to trim down where I've got the supports that are holding it up at the moment in place. But one of those things I need to do is all of my hatches here, I'm going to need to cut out the blank that's in them, and I have to leave a 15mm rim on the inside of the floor of the hatch in order to put a dam in there to create a U-shaped channel to stop any water from flowing into my hatches when and if it rains or any water runs over the top. There will be a small drain in the corner of each of these hatches. So down in here, each of these, there's 6 along the front, and there's my anchor hatch. Ultimately they all have to have the same process. I'm basically going to cut out a square 15mm in on these 4 or 5 hatches up the front here, and the 2 curved ones up the front there, they're going to have to be cut out as well. Now the reason why I need to cut them out as well, although I don't need to do them right away, but I do need to do them for the test drop because I need to be able to see up underneath into the bulkheads to make sure that I'm getting a good join between the bulkhead and the deck as the deck gets dropped down. Otherwise I will not be able to see it. There's not enough room for me to be able to get any sort of vision in there because they're all sealed compartments essentially, and the only access will be via the hatch. So that's going to be a pretty ordinary job. It's going to be head in with a torch looking for any gaps, any areas I need to subsequently trim, because I'm going to drop the deck and then I'm going to lift it back up again, put it back in place. Once that's all done, I'll be able to do a final drop. Hopefully only one more drop. I only have to do 2 drops. I'll do the first one, test it all, check it all, trim where necessary, lift it back up, leave it there for a while, get some other jobs done around the inside of the boat before I do a final drop down and glue it down for good. Oh, that was a session, holy shit. That's taken me about 2 hours to cut those buggers out. So we've got all our hatches cut out, basically along the front here. Got 4 large storage compartments, and obviously there's like a sail locker up on the bow. I'm not really sure what I'm going to use that for. Is those holes are actually big enough for me to be able to lay headfirst in and to be able to tab and obviously complete the bulkhead ceiling underneath. But yeah, how good's that? That's a massive another massive milestone. It's been a big week this week. Funnily enough, I wish I'd cut them out the other day before I started doing the doing the bulkhead adjustment, because I would have had a hell of a lot more light. You can see here underneath the deck here now, very close to a fitment, dry fitment on this deck. And now I've got those cut out, I'll be able to see in underneath and make sure that I can basically see any discrepancies in the fitment. But yeah, the hatches being cut open, what a bloody difference in the light. I wish I'd done that. That would have given me a whole better experience of cutting those bulkheads out, but I didn't, and I can live with that.